In our current financial system, it's a debt-based system. And without debt, and this is going to sound strange, and I'm in a CPA, and I had to probably hear this 100 times to really pound it into my head. In our system, if there's no debt, there is no money. That makes no sense. Good day, my name is David Fusco, and in this show, I'm going to talk about business, finance, and how to survive and thrive in this crazy environment that we're living in today. Welcome to my show. My name is David Fusco, as I mentioned, and in today's podcast, this being my first one, I wanted to give you an introduction of who I am, where I came from, and where I'm going. As you can tell from my last name, Fusco, it's an Italian surname, and my father was born in Italy in the 1920s during the Depression times, and he came to the United States as an American-born citizen because his father was a U.S. Army veteran in World War I. If you lived, you became a citizen. He went back to Italy in his 30s as the rich Italian American guy, and met my grandmother, who was 17. He was 35. I guess he was a little stealer. And he married her. My father was born in the mountains there, and they came to the United States in the 1920s, late 1920s. My mother was born here also, in Staten Island, New York, which is where I am located right now, my office. And currently I'm an accountant. Now, how did I get there? Well, growing up, I grew up in a working family. I had 5 other brothers and sisters. And at the age of 12, my father goes, "How old are you today?" It was my birthday. And he goes, so I tell him, "Oh, I'm 12. He goes, "That's good. That's it. The ball game's over. Tomorrow, you get on the bus, you come to the office, and you're going to work." From 12 years old forward, I learned how to work. I used my hands. I mixed concrete. I did plumbing, electrical, you name it. Whatever the work was, I did it. Basically, my family, we were treated as a little bit like property. But it wasn't that bad. We didn't have a lot of money. We grew up pretty poor. I mean, there was no phone in the house. There was no such thing as cell phones back in the Stone Age when I was young. And there was no phone. Sometimes the electric was on. Sometimes the gas was on. Sometimes both. Sometimes neither. But I still enjoyed life. And even while I did that, as a young guy at the age of 14, I had joined an organization called the Civil Air Patrol, which is actually part of the United States Air Force. In that, I learned how to march, shoot, and do all kinds of interesting, fun things. And that's where also my love for the military came, and how I eventually became a soldier in the United States Army. Actually started with my father and his father. We got a lot of military background. My father was a U.S. Navy veteran, World War II, and the Korean War. By the time it was my turn to join the military, I was 17 years old. I tricked my mother and father into signing the papers and came home, and it says, "Okay, Mom, Dad, I'm going away." "What do you mean you're going away? You're too young to go away to the military." I go, "Well, you signed the papers." And they didn't realize they did. So I joined the United States Army, and actually, initially, I was supposed to leave right after high school because I was on what's called delayed entry. And my initial occupation I was going to go to was the 172nd Airborne Company in Alaska, whose mission is, and I volunteered for this, in case of war with the Soviet Union, they jump us into Soviet Union where the missile silos are. We blow the missile silos up. Not sure how we got back. I guess they didn't tell us about that part. But being a fool, I didn't want to wake up early, and I decided I'd skip gym class. So me and my buddy who skipped gym class, because we didn't want to wake up and get to school at 8 a.m., failed. Well, apparently you need that to graduate. So me and my buddy in the 1970s had to go to Bedford-Stuyvesant, where we were the only white guys in town. As we walked along, and I was keeping my head down, as people were calling me Whiplash and Snowball and all kinds of other interesting names, I said, "Why the fuck didn't I wake up early in the morning?" Well, that was a good lesson to learn. Oh yeah, one day that really took the cake was, as we were leaving the school in Bed-Stuy, these 2 Rastafarians were coming out of a liquor store blasting their 12 gauges into the store, and I'm going, "Oh God, why didn't I wake up early?" Do what you're supposed to do. But I lived. And so I had delayed entry. So now I lost my slot in the military to go into the 172nd Airborne. And so the recruiter calls me up, says, listen, I had to change your position. And he jokes to me, he says, I made you a cook. I'm flipping out. Oh my God, you can't do that. And he knew I was into the Civil Air Patrol and I had all this prior, pre-military training. And he goes, no, I'm only kidding you. He goes, I liked you. I feel you can make it. And he set me up to go into the 10th Special Forces Group, which is the United States Army Green Berets. So I went right in from the street into the Army. And believe it or not, that was actually like a vacation. Because, I would work. My father would have us do concrete work from the time you could get the cement mixers going at 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. at night, sometimes even later, past the allowable hours. And I would just move concrete blocks. I became very strong. So actually, when I went in the military, it was fairly easy because I had already gotten used to carrying a couple of 100 pounds literally on my back with cement bags up and down stairs for days on end. So, these things that, you don't like doing as you're going along in life, when you come back to it, you go, wow, that really helped me a lot. So when I went into the military, it was actually fairly easy, all the physical training and whatnot. And also because I had the Civil Air Patrol training and knew how to march and knew how to shoot and knew how to fight. So it was a pretty easy transition. I went into the Special Forces, and my original occupational specialty was I was a light weapons leader, which was great. That's what I exactly wanted to do. That's what I signed up for. So after about 6 months of training, the Special Forces training alone, they sent me up to my unit in the 10th Special Forces Group, which at the time was located in Fort Devens, Massachusetts. And I got there, my team sergeant says, we don't need any more weapons specialists, but we need a Commo man. So they sent me back down and to Commo school, and now I'm becoming a Commo man, learning Morse code and whatnot. Now, of course, as the Commo man, not just do you get to carry your normal 80-pound pack, you get another 20 to 30 pounds of radio and battery to hump, too. So now you're humping about 120, 130 pounds on your back. So I guess that wasn't such a fun transition from the weapons man. But it was good stuff. Did a lot of training. I did overseas shit. Was in mostly cold places, Norway, Iceland, Greenland. Lived in the mountains, lived in snow caves that we dug. It was a lot of fun. So, when it came time for me to get out of the Army, I had to make a decision what to do. I would have probably stayed in except for the fact that I had met a woman that I eventually married. Actually, I married her while I was still in the military, and that's why I got out of the active duty. But after active duty, I went into the reserves and actually was in the National Guard unit here in Staten Island for a while. One nice thing about the military was I had the GI Bill, and that GI Bill paid for my entire college. I went to Pace University and I got my degree in accounting. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, so my father said, well, why don't you go into accounting, because whether you have a pizza place, a construction company, whatever, accounting's useful in every type of business venture. So I went ahead and did that. I like mathematics anyhow, and I also like people. So I got out, and my father had a public accounting firm, and actually first I didn't want to do it. And while I was in school, I did construction, I did programming. I was actually a COBOL programmer, and I wrote accounting software initially. And that was a lot of fun because people didn't know how difficult or not difficult writing software was. So you could kind of like jerk around, and people, because it was so brand new in the early 80s, you could have a nice day and not have a problem with people saying, well, what did you get done today? Because they had no clue, because it was brand new stuff. But went along, and eventually I became after college, I graduated and got my CPA license after taking the exam. First, when I took the exam, I thought, okay, I knew what I was doing. I took it. My highest score was, I think, a 52 on the 4 parts. It was not a good idea. So I realized I needed to study. I literally spent 800 hours studying, and I passed. I got a 92 in law, and my lowest score was a 77, which is all you need, 75 or better. So I finished, got my CPA license, and about a year later, I decided best bet was for me to open my own business. So I left my father's and I opened my own business. And actually, well, I kind of like had no choice but to do it. I had gotten married. My wife was pregnant. My father reneged on a deal, and that's why I left. And when it was time to leave, I had $90,000 of debt. Part of that debt was just living on credit cards because I was getting paid very little. And part of that debt was because I lost 50 grand gambling. And it took me 5 years to pay that back. So, what's funny is in my early 20s, I dropped $2,000-$3,000 in Atlantic City. And now today at 60s, I don't even want to take $200 out of my pocket, and I can afford it now. But good lesson to learn and lose early on and then recover from it, because then this way, now you realize it, and when it could be more serious, you're not going to let that shit happen. So I became an accountant, and I've pretty much been just grinding it out. So my first 5 years was a lot of work. I mean, I had no money, and actually my $90,000 in debt turned into $200,000 because I had to borrow a lot of money to get my business started. Now we're talking 1990s. Okay, in 1990, I think you could get a slice, maybe 2 slices and a Coke. I think, what do you need, like $5 now to get 2 slices and a Coke? So it gives you an idea that $200,000 of debt in 1990 is probably like $500,000 today. My first year, my receptionist at $7 or so an hour made more than me. I lived on more debt. My second year, I beat her out, but I still was only just a notch above my receptionist. It took about 5 years to get rid of all my debt, and I worked 6 to 7 days a week, 14, 15-hour days. I mean, my wife put up with it. Well, she had no choice. And I have the daughter. So I built my business up. It was growing nicely. Life was good. Moved to New Jersey, big fancy Center Hall Colonial. And then it's time to get a divorce. Because after all, isn't that part of the progression of life? You grow up, you go to school, maybe you go in the military, you get a job, you work, you get married, you have a kid, now you get divorced. Hopefully it doesn't happen to everybody. But shit does happen. And, well, there went all my money. Literally, no joke. Every liquid dollar I had was gone. The stress coming on me was massive. Just the negativity in a divorce is absolutely amazing. And it's not a fun thing to go through. But you will survive. And what was interesting is even though I had lost so much, by the time it was over, once it was finalized and the judge said done, it was like a weight being lifted off me. And one of my buddies actually pointed it out. He said, you look different. What do you mean I look different? He goes, well, you know when you weight lift, what the plates look like? I go, yeah. He goes, well, imagine if you were laying on the ground and I said, how you feel? Oh, great. And you put a plate on top. How's that? Oh, that's okay. And then put another one. How's that? Oh, I'm okay. And you keep stacking them up. Now they're this high. How's that feeling? It's okay, I can take it. And then one day somebody comes by and picks them up. Now they're gone. You're like, whoa, that's what breath feels like. And that's what it felt like when I was finalized. And what was amazing was because now my focus was taken away from all the negativity and the hate, I could now take it and turn it into something positive. Within 1 year's time, whatever dollars I had to give up, I literally had back in my pocket from my work. And within 1 year, I literally doubled my business. So if I had $100 in business, I now had $200 of business, because now the focus was there. And that's really a key point is where you put your focus is where you're going to go and how your energies are going to be utilized. One of the things that happened to me during my divorce time is I had a lot more free time. And that's where the next major change in my life came about. When you're married, you go home and you work after you work, and your wife goes, here's the kid, you take her or him. And, you play with the kid and you do that stuff, and hey, fix the sink, and hey, the dog needs to go for a walk or whatever it might be. So you're busy. Now you're divorced. You're not going home anymore. You're not being handed the kid. No dog to walk. I guess you can get a new one, but there was no dog to walk. And what do you do? You know, so at first, you know, all right, let me go on the computer, and computers were still fairly new. This was early 2000s, 2002, when I started the divorce ball rolling. And, you know, so you're wasting time on a computer, you know, looking at shit that you know, maybe shouldn't look at, but it's interesting. And I started learning about our financial system and our political system. And I started learning about the Constitution more and reading more. And I became disillusioned at some of the stuff I was learning about how it seems like 1913 was like a key year when our financial system changed and private banks took over the financial system of the United States. Prior to that, it was gold and silver money based in the Constitution. And it's been a major change since that point. In our current financial system, it's a debt-based system. And without debt, and this is going to sound strange, and I'm a CPA, and I had to probably hear this 100 times to really pound it into my head. In our system, if there's no debt, there is no money. That makes no sense, but it does when you really realize the system. The Federal Reserve System, the Federal Reserve is a private corporation. It is as Federal Express is. It's not. It's a private corporation owned by individuals and some banks. Certain names like the Morgans, like the Rothschilds, and the names go on. The big peoples. I guess you want to call them the super elites, whatever word you like to use. And that's where the system changed. So in our system, that if you literally paid off all of the debt, there would be no money. It's hard to wrap the head around, and I'm a CPA, and it took me a while to. But think about this. If you had a system where you get to create money, meaning something that you can use for value, and you could lend it to someone, and they had to pay you back that same money, dollars in this case, plus interest. So at the end of 1 year, let's make believe, you borrowed $100 at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, you got to give the $100 back plus $6 of interest. Well, there's only one place that you can get these Federal Reserve notes. That's from the Federal Reserve. So you have to borrow the $6 from them to pay them the interest. So now you owe them $106 and so on, and it builds and builds. Well, now I think, what are we up to? 20 trillion, gazillion, who knows the numbers. The system is going to fail at some point. It's called the fiat money system. All fiat money systems in the world to this day have failed, and they've changed into other systems. That's a whole major topic by itself, but we'll do that one because it's a fun one to talk about. So now I see the financial system's a mess, and I'm learning all these things, and I'm getting disillusioned by all the stuff that I had been taught growing up. And I realized that, hey, you know what? Some of the things one of the things that my father told me that was interesting, he said, in World War II in Italy, if you pay attention and you watch the old movies from then, when the Germans were going through the village, the Italians were out there with the German flags, yay! Then the Americans came through, they had the American flags, yay! And the British came through, yay! Leave me the fuck alone. You want to kill each other, go ahead. Yay for you. People just want to be left alone. Governments don't want us to be left alone, because how else are you going to control people except with different ways to manipulate? One of the things that we see in the world today is division. And they want to keep chopping us up into smaller and smaller segments to create more and more negativity. Well, guess what? If the left and the right unified, well, the governments would be screwed, because they wouldn't be able to make people fight anymore. That's how they controlled us, with making us all fight each other. That would be a shame for the people trying to control us, wouldn't it? Well, hopefully that's what happens eventually. We all unify. So what do? I'm noticing now that the world is changing. This is about 12 years or so ago now. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, I got to do something. I got to run away. And I was talking to different clients at the time. I have a lot of clients that I like talking to them. I'm pretty out there with what I do and what I think. And this really stuck in my head and made me change my thoughts. And one of my clients said to me, but what are you going to do? You're going to run away and leave us? And no, why should I? Why should I have to run away? This is my country. I was born here. It's my responsibility to teach people what it really means to be blessed to be in this country. So I started learning more and more. And I said, it'd be nice to have that place in that no man's land so that when the zombies come, I can survive. But people are not individuals in reality. You're not going to survive long like that, both from a realistic point of view and also from a pack animal point of view, because that's what we are. We're just that's why humans and dogs get along so well. We're pack animals. We like being together. We feed off of each other. We have different things that we can contribute, different skills, and so on. So I thought to myself, it's maybe a better idea to have a place where you can go with like-minded people that just want to be left alone, that want to be self-sufficient, that are okay with working hard, that are okay with taking care of themselves, that are not looking for the free handout and the free lunch. Absolutely help somebody, yet, what's that expression? Yet but for the grace of God go I. You got to help people who, God forbid something severely injurious happens to you or whatever. But for people who can take care of themselves, they should chip in to the level that they can, whatever it might be. So you want to be around people who are willing to help clean the dishes while the party's going on, to help put things away. That's not just going to sit there and wait to be waited on and handed food, like when you go to the parties at Uncle Bob's or your aunt's. So finding a place and redeveloping yourself. The problem is if you're in a business, you've entrenched yourself, especially like me. I've been located in Staten Island as a CPA now for 35 years. It's crazy. Long time, maybe more than that. And how do you transition and go from a city area, in case you don't want to be in a city area anymore, and just leave that and transition to another place in the country or in the world, for that matter, if that's your choice? I choose to stay. And how do you not lose what you have and burn it to the ground? Because there's a value there. Yeah, you could just sell it, but once you sell it, it's done. And is that really what you want? So the way I've decided to transition is to keep my current accounting business in New York, and not just keep it, but to develop it. So I've hired the right people. I'm training them. I'm putting the energy into them. I'm making them a part of the process, getting them to understand that ultimately, hey, I'm 61. I'm an old guy. Okay, it's going to be yours. There's no value in this except for the people who work in this industry. So now I got to take myself and transition. Well, one of the things that I wanted to do, that was a dream for like 12 or 15 years ago, was to develop and build a camp. And I kept thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, but I really never took the steps to do it. And it was probably two Marches ago where it really hit me. And I had a great girlfriend at the time, a beautiful Russian girl, but I felt I had no purpose. I'd finish my day's work, I'd lay around on the couch, binge watching Netflix, watching stupid crap, show after show, eating junk. I gained a lot of weight. I had 38-inch pants going like this, struggling to button them up. That was a good jiggly-puff. Well, I actually saw an ad on YouTube on this group of guys, Next Level, and it resonated with me because it was kind of militaristic, and I have a lot of military in me, and it helped me to focus myself. And then using that focus, it was strange. I went to Pennsylvania with a buddy who also was like-minded, which I didn't know, and I knew him for a long time. We went out to Pennsylvania. We looked at one property, and it was nice. It was very wooded, but it really didn't feel like what I want. We got to the second property, 163 acres. We drive up to the crest of a hill, and we look down. A 10-acre lake, stream-fed, 15 feet deep, 70 acres wooded, 70 acres cleared. It was like I literally saw what my vision was 10 or 12 years earlier in my mind of what I wanted. Now, of course, then there's the reality. So I bought it. And then the reality is now you got to put it in the work. And it's probably a 2, 3, 4, 5-year project, what I want to do. There's a lot of facets to it, and it's going to be a lot of fun to develop a community of like-minded people, but also to give back to the world and give back to this country that's helped me out so much and that I've had a great time in so far. And I have a lot of fun. I literally could picture my 85-year-old self sweeping the front porch, greeting people as they come into the camp. A place where families can go and get away and disconnect from the concrete world and the asphalt world. A place where you can have a Zen garden. Your cell phones, they don't work out there. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So eventually you get frustrated and you say, ah, to hell with it, and you put it in your pocket. Now you're actually talking to people. Having ATV trails, zipping around, it's absolutely amazing. When I went out there with one of my buddies who's a builder, on the way out to the property from Staten Island, something happened, and he was angry. He was calling this guy and calling that guy, flipping out, cursing, screaming, chewing this guy's ear off, and so on. We get into the property. I park. His cell phone's not working so good, off on. Finally says, ah, to hell with it. He puts it in his pocket. He was all angry. Gets out. We're walking around. Maybe 2-3 minutes goes by. I go, hey, Rob. I see his face is different. How you doing? He goes, oh, fine. What's the matter? Why? I go, where's all that anger? He goes, holy crap, I can't believe it. He goes, I stepped out of the car. I heard some birds chirping, some crickets. I saw a splash in the lake of a fish. And then it was like all gone. We're missing that as people. We come from nature. So whether the world turns into this crazy zombie apocalypse where people are eating each other's heads or whatever it is, or if it's just to get the hell away from the concrete and the asphalt, being out in the country, being out where people live a easier lifestyle. They're still industrious. They still work hard. But it's so much different than where we live under fluorescent light bulbs and in these concrete jungles. So now I'm in this transition. So without burning down my current business, because I need it to feed me, so to speak, and I need it to help I can't just abandon the people who work for me. So, and it's fun, and I'm helping them to develop themselves, and they are doing great and building the business here in New York. I'm now in the process of buying a commercial building in the general area where the land is. The goal there is now to open up an accounting business there, to now become part of the community, so that the people out there see that, hey, I'm a regular guy, that I'm looking to bring business into the area. I'm looking to bring employment into the area. I'm not the communists coming out of New York, like they feel. And they're afraid of that. The people coming from New York, they're afraid of the people coming from California, bringing in super liberal ideas. Actually, if from some of the stuff I've heard, go back 20 odd years ago, I would be considered very liberal, because I don't give a crap what anybody wants to do. Just don't hurt me and don't hurt the people I love. Do whatever you want. Just don't take away from me. And I think most people think like that, just like the Italians. Whoever's walking through, yay, you're great, you're wonderful. Just leave me the hell alone, move on. And I think that's what most people want. So I'm here to help you learn who and what I am and where I come from, so that you can understand that you also can do this, so that you need to think about how are you going to survive and thrive no matter what happens. You see the world going on, what's happening now. What are you going to do? What are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for your family? What are you doing for your loved ones? If you have the capability of doing something and you're not, think about how you're going to feel looking in the mirror at yourself if the shit really does hit the fan. And it doesn't have to be the zombie apocalypse. It could be a Katrina event, or what happened here not too many years ago, maybe 6 years or something like that ago, the Sandy storm. I don't want to be stuck in no Super Bowl dome with 10 bazillion other people. I'd like to have a place where I can bring myself and my family and friends so that we can ride out any insanity that goes on, whether it's short term or long term. How do you pivot is also part of my desire to help you and learn. How do you change from being something for 35 years, a certified public accountant in New York City, to being a different person in a different industry, yet not losing what you have, so that what you currently have can help and support what your next drive and desire is. So hope you find that helpful, and I plan on making a lot more of these podcasts to help people out as best I can, to tell my story and to see how you might resonate with that, and how that may help you, enhance you to take steps necessary to protect yourself, your family, to survive and thrive. Thank you.